My name is Josephine Watkins Johnson, and my family came to Greenport from Richmond, Virginia. I was a year and a half old. At that time, I believe my mother left the South because they were getting 50 cents for half a day and 75 cents for a full day. So my mother would work 2 half-a-days in the South in order to get money to come north because they were paying $50 a month in the North for doing domestic work. I was born 1921, so it probably was 1923 that we came north. So I'm considered by the Greenporters as a Greenporter because I started and ended school in Greenport. Yeah, we came back to Greenport, and that's when we really realized that depression had hit Greenport. And you got $2 a day for cleaning houses, and $6 my mother got working part-time. And people would go and say, I can do the job for $5 a week. And my mother would be told, you know, we're very happy with you, Helen, but we're paying you $6 and someone else can do it for $5. So things are pretty tough. And where the Mullins used car lot, there was a little tea room called the Gingham Dog and the Calico Cat. And my mother used to cook there in the summer, so we had a steady income in the summer of $25 a week. And they would specialize in New England dinners, which was ham, coleslaw, brown bread, baked beans, and it was for $1. I remember they used to have the coal trains would come into Greenport. It was the last stop, and they would come in the morning, and they would signal. They'd blow toot, 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 and everybody knew that was a train bringing in a soft coal because we had steam engines. And you'd hear people with their wagons and sacks on their backs and bicycles and cars going down to get the coal. And if you left your clothes on the line overnight, they were all full of specks from everybody burning soft coal. And then the railroad would complain frequently about the coal being taken, and so they would have the police down to arrest somebody. So my older brother was arrested, and my mother said, well, she was cutting tires and burn them for heat. And she said, you know, why are you arresting him? And he said, well, a lot of the people come down have large families, and we can't arrest them. So we feel that he's a single person. And so she wasn't entitled to any sort of support or anything. So it was just my mother. And she did midwife. A lot of the children she helped delivered. Dr. Harvey, he did not affiliate with the hospital. So she and Dr. Harvey would work together, delivering home delivery. And she would leave home for 6 weeks, 2 weeks before the baby was born with the family, and then 4 weeks after, because the mother in those days stayed in bed for 14 days. And they drank tea and royal lunch biscuits. That was what the mother had, and they breastfed the baby. At 11, I guess at 8, I was really, when my mother was doing midwife, I was home cooking and for the older brothers and all. And I did my first job at 8 in the Cassidy's picking potatoes, 5 cents a bushel. And I got 5 nickels. I was so happy at the end of the year. At the end of the week, that was a week's pay. But that was another thing. In the summer, my mother would pick potatoes and string beans, lima beans. And at that time, the farm work was done mostly by blacks and Polish and Italians. And then in the 30s, they had an influx of the migrants coming up from Florida. And I can remember very vividly where the laundromat is today. It was an A&P, And of course, they weren't used to in the South walking on the streets. So when you'd be in the supermarket shopping, the Floridians at that time would get behind a white person and they would keep moving back until they realized that they could stand in front of a white person. And where Latham's farm stand, it was just high weeds. And when they would come out of the A&P, and if a white person was on the road, on the sidewalk, they would walk over across the street in the high weeds until then they came several years and realized that they weren't discriminated in Greenport. Yes, it has changed a lot. And if you know you're not accepted, like my mother said, in the South, they have a sign, colored and white. But in the North, they don't have a sign. But you can tell when you go in. And Mitchell's Restaurant, they never served black until after World War II. Long after that, because a black doctor came in with his yacht and family, and my girlfriend was doing the china and the silver there, the silver and the china, and they refused to serve him, and he sat there and made them serve him, and they broke every item that him and his family had used. But we were never taught. We always played with integrated race children. We played with the Chivonis and the Valentine girls and the Quarties, and Dr. Tuttle's house on First Street. It had a captain's walk, and that was a widow's walk, and that was where the Ku Klux Klans every Friday night would burn a cross, and we would be in the lot on Second Street looking up at the cross. But they were mostly with the Catholics and some of the Jewish people, but mostly with the Catholics. But life has been, Greenport is one of the most giving communities, I think, on the east end of Long Island. People are very, very, because I know we were buying our house in 1946. We were $100 short. And my mother worked for Mrs. Erickson, and her husband was an officer in the Coast Guard. And she would also babysit for her children. One girl was oldest girl was a teenager, and the boy was about 10. And she loaned my mother the $100 so we could pay our down payment to get the house. On Kaplan Avenue, and at that time we could not buy any place in Greenport. They would not sell to blacks. We tried to get houses on Fifth Avenue, but most people lived on 2nd Street, 3rd Street, and Johnson Court. They had, I guess, advanced and moved away, so we had Italian on one side, and she moved when she found out that we were moving. Then she tried to get the next door neighbor on the other side to move, and she said no, because I don't know who they are. And she was the mother of Adamson, who owned the Wayside Market. And we were very good neighbors, because I went to school for cosmetology, and she would do my sewing, and I would set her hair. And then my son, Tom, he was the first black fireman in Greenport. He works at the Greenport Hospital in the detox, and he also works for the Village. He will be retiring, I think, in a year or two. And I came to Peconic Landing when they first opened. I'm a pioneer. Yeah, and my sister worked at Brecknock Hall for 25 years, and she ran the entire house there, cooking, cleaning, and they only have a apartment-sized stove in that entire house. And matter of fact, the original tea set that they had there, Mrs. Robinson donated to the Order of St. Mary's. That was in Bayside, and she went there as a nurse, pediatric nurse. And my daughter went there, and when they found out we were from Greenport, they used that service for the tea party for the family.